Good afternoon, I'm Karen Holmes Ward. Welcome to Cityline. Home ownership is becoming exponentially more difficult to achieve for lower and middle income families. Interest rates are up, but prices have not really come down. There are some signs of a mild cool down, but it's still a tough market to crack. Here's News Center 5's Ben Cimino.
Yeah, we've been in the market and so far we got no luck.
Anson Wu has been looking for a home west of Boston for his family of 5 since the start of this year and has placed more bids than he imagined.
Oh, I can't even remember. My gosh, we have looked at countless houses and we look in many towns.
And he's a realtor, which doesn't seem to leave much hope for the average home buyer.
Obviously, this is what I do, but with all these crazy numbers now happening everywhere, it's crazy.
So what does it take to get your offer accepted? Even with fewer people bidding, still expect to pay over asking and know that most are waiving contingencies, including an inspection. Consider using an agent with a lot of local connections and have all your paperwork lined up as you're competing against cold hard cash. Wu was surprised that in almost every home they bid on, the winner was someone able to pay cash.
We didn't expect this would become a new norm, a new reality that you have to have cash to buy a house.
So is there anywhere with less competition? Yes, homes that are not move-in ready. A telltale sign is they sit on the market for more than a few days.
For the buyer who's open to purchasing a home that might need a little bit of work, there's still some opportunity out there.
Will rising interest rates lower prices? Likely not soon. Now in the 5% range, 30-year mortgage rates are certainly higher than a year ago, but historically they're still considered low.
In April, the median price for a single-family home in Greater Boston hit $845,000. That's up 11.2%, a rise from last year. And joining us now is Melvin Vieira. He's president of the Greater Boston Association of Realtors. Wow, Melvin, that is a daunting and scary number. How can low to middle income families afford to stay in Greater Boston anymore?
You know, Karen, it's very tough right now to be able to do that. And that's the reason why we have to go ahead and build more affordable housing for home ownership in the city of Boston. We need to look at a lot of different things that are actually been taking place in the city of Boston that has been put out there a long time ago. We need to implement those things to get them in place.
Now, you were telling me before the show started about not Boston area and maybe the country not having built housing stock since when?
Since World War II. This is funny if you really think about it. World War II, when those homes were being built, they were built for those people who were coming home from the war. And those actually are the parents of the baby boomers. And that was the largest population. But Karen, think about it. Who's the largest population now? The millennials. And they are now competing to buy homes. So if we haven't built, of course, there's going to be a supply and demand problem.
Sure. So last week, Mayor Michelle Wu pushed for a 2% transfer tax on high-dollar real estate sales in Boston. And the Massachusetts Association of Realtors has testified against the measure. Can you explain why?
Well, let me explain something to you. There are so many other things that are out there that we need to look at first. There's the CPA funds, okay, which is the Community Preservation Act. That was put in by Cellucci. And that piece was put in, which was allowed us to put in a tax on anything of actually housing, on historic property, and also playgrounds. So there's one thing. There's also the linkage fund that was also put out there as well, which was put in. That linkage fund we have to look at and reanalyze. Ironically, in the Marty Walsh administration, he actually did a home rule petition which allowed them to work on the linkage fund to make sure it works properly. Okay, then there's also the IDP, okay, the inclusionary fund as well.
What's the IDP stand for?
It's the inclusionary
something.
Right,
okay.
And I apologize, but the inclusion, you just caught me off guard, I apologize.
Sorry.
But I always know things by acronyms. But my point is, there are 3 other things that are mechanisms that are already in place, and we need to look at those, okay, and figure out how to rework those and make those work properly, because those were put in for affordable housing, okay, and affordable home ownership as well.
Now, you talked about the fact that housing stock hasn't been, a lot of new housing stock hasn't built since World War II and the competition with boomers and parents of boomers. But talk about why there's been a slowdown of building new housing.
That happened for a few reasons. One of the biggest reasons that was the supply and demand of getting product in, but also the fact of lack of land here, especially in Boston. Okay, that's one of the major problems. Also, the fact of the zoning reform. We need to look at the fact of zoning reform and figure out how we can actually build homes, okay, and build them in a certain area that the thing is that they're not going to restrict us from doing certain things. Also, the thing is we have a lack of people in the trades. Think about this. When's the last time we've actually made a true effort to get these young men and women in the inner city, in the community, in the trades? Think of, we only have truly one actual school. Okay, I did my research this morning to try to figure out how many schools we actually have that actually for trade schools. Madison Park is one. It's not even being used to its fullest ability. Okay, we need to look at putting these young men and women back to work and trying to figure. We also have the Carpenters Union as well, which has an apprentice program. But we need to get more and more in there so we can control two things. We can control zoning, and we can control the labor force. If we control those two things, we can kind of bring down the pricing.
Wow. So it starts at the very beginning and moves along the chain, huh?
It's called planting seeds. We can always paint a broad brush. We can always plant a tree, a big tree, to make it look beautiful. But if we don't plant the seeds to grow for the future, we will never be able to harvest that crop later on.
All right. Now, investors and companies seem to be buying up the stock of single-family homes in Boston and across the country. The majority in cash with a goal of renting or flipping. We've seen all these shows on House and Garden television. You know, how big a concern is that and how big an element is that in this market?
Well, we've noticed that happen throughout other major parts of the country, but we've also seen a lot of smaller LLCs actually buy here within Boston. What that shows me and tells me there's a lot of young men and women and other types of people getting together, pooling their money together and going after buying property, okay, because they've all watched this famous program on TV on cable, and they've all want to be like that. So my point is that, you know, it is happening, but it's not happening to the level that it's happening in other parts of the country.
Wow, a lot to consider.
Yes.
Yeah. So do you think things are going to slow down and people are going to be able to get into the market?
Well, it's funny you asked that question because I like to do a lot of forecasting and look forward. And what I'm realizing, since the Fed's changed the interest rates, we've actually watched what's happening. And we're watching that the market is actually slowing down. We're watching the days in the market actually increase because what's happening is that buyer pool has shifted. So if you think about it, the buyer who could actually afford a home at 3%, okay, at $400,000, their mortgage technically, let's use it for an example, is $1,200 at 3%. But now at 5%, their mortgage is now $2,000. So that same buyer now is saying to themselves, why should I move? I have an $800 spread now from where I was just 6 months ago. And now they're trying to figure out, are they getting the same exact house that they were looking for 60 days ago? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. At the same time, rents are going up too. So in many cases, if you can get to the mortgage process, your mortgage will be less than your monthly rent.
Exactly. And that's what they have to look at. You have to understand, interest rates, okay, the average time, if you go with the history of time of interest rates, it's been 6%. When I first started selling, they were 12 and 13%.
So it's still kind of a deal if you compare. All right. Melvin Vieira, thank you so much for being here today. Up next, a closer look at what it will take to increase affordable housing in Greater Boston and why new legislation is facing opposition. That's next.